Everyone, it's Lori from Girls in the Garden, and I wanted to talk about how I put this embroidery on an existing shirt. So let's get started. The first thing I did was I measured my cuff, and I did this embroidery on the inside of my cuff so I could turn it back. The story is my shirt is well loved, and the sleeves have always been a little short. Well, I have worn it so much and washed it so much that they won't stay rolled up. But I couldn't part with this favorite comfy shirt, so I decided to add some embroidery, roll up the sleeves, and I took a little tuck in it so it almost looked like a double fold, and then stitched it in a couple places so it would unfold. So I measured this so I could figure out my spacing for it. And then I went into mySewnet and I went to frames. And I just picked this frame, and my hoop is a little big, but that's okay. And I used my metal frame because it worked really well to put those magnets down and hold my cuff in place. So let's just take this and I'm going to apply it. But I then before I did this, I took in Google and changed my inches to millimeters because this is 10. So I went like this and kind of guessed where I needed to be in counting squares. But here's a cool thing. Go to View, get your length and start at your starting point and go to your end. And I had around 5 inches. So that's about right. And I think had 1.5 inches this way. So I'm a little long this way so I can scoot it back in frames. I'll scoot it in a little bit and make it a little narrower. So we'll go back to View and I'll check this with Get Length. That's 5, and that is just a 1 3/4. And the reason I did this is I wanted to be able to stay in my parameters of what width I had for that cuff, because when I start designing, I'm like, oh my, what? I just get busy and I just create and create and create. And before I know it, it's too much for the hoop or too much for my area. And then I have to go back and recreate. So I thought I had this, and what I'm going to do is this is what I picked, and let's play with the size. That's a little too small. I'm going to go to 25, hit apply. That works well. And I can copy and paste, or I can go to Encore, do a straight line, and do 2 repeats. Preview, apply. Now I can decide to make that bigger or leave it like that. I had a little more room. I probably, if I wasn't doing the video, I would go back and do it again and make it bigger and fill the space. And on my design, I wanted it to look pretty monochromatic. So I used a blue that was pretty close to my chambray shirt and a light gray. But then I'm going to hit apply. Now I don't want that first one to stitch out. So I'm just going to delete it. All I was using that frame for was just the purpose of making sure I stayed within the width of my embroidery field, I should say. So when you don't need to fill the hoop, or you're not doing a blank fabric or a bag or something that you have the room to do, this was a great way to have the room to do it. And also, you could do it with this too if you want to just have the corners. But I found it better to do this, and it really made me stay within that rectangle. So I hope that helped. It's not an in-depth tutorial this time, but it was like a light bulb moment for me when I figured out, hey, I could do this, and then I will have the exact space I need to do my embroidery, and it fit on that cuff perfectly. And another tip is when you go, make sure you baste around the design, and that way I do the basting around on my stabilizer, and then I do it on my garment to make sure it fits the field. All right, thanks very much.